Hello everyone. Since my last video on how to get the Ancient Scout, there has been a lot more players using it. However, many players have had difficulty using it and have even been saying it needs a buff. I do not agree with them. I think the main reason some of these players are calling for a buff is because they do not know how to use the Ancient Scout's strengths very well or where to abuse those strengths. This guide will attempt to teach you how to properly use the Ancient Scout to win games or give your team a large advantage, as well as inform people of hard to find information for the Ancient Scout, such as its exact stats. Let's start with its stats. It is the hardest thing in the game to obtain, with most players not obtaining it until my guide came out. But in return, it has the best mobility in the game, terrible survivability, and the best way of delivering damage in combat in the game. For its mobility, it has 375 top speed and 525 boost speed, making it the fastest vehicle in the game in traversal speed outside of the skimmer. With its combat mobility, or its ability to stay inside of enemy blind spots while keeping them outside of its own, it also is the best in the game overall due to this insane speed and weapon not requiring you to come at a specific angle, despite it having only 130 turn. And its handling, or its ability to get into locations you want fast and without crashing, is also insane, mainly due to it not being able to crash. The only reason it's not higher than a 10 is because it's so fast that it can be easy to overshoot. For its survivability, it has 50 hull and 450 shield. This makes it have the lowest total combined health in the game at only 500. However, if you do not manage to one-shot it, it will likely heal up immediately, due to having a regen rate of 100, which is 30% faster than the LC on a ship with way less health, making the regen seem almost instant. The main reason the regen score is not higher is because its shield is so low that there are too many things that one-shot it to justify it being higher than a 3. Its hit factor, or how difficult it is to land a hit on it, is at a 5. This is because despite it being a very fast, slim, and small target, it does not have any flares, making it very vulnerable to homing missiles, which one-shot it. It also suffers a little bit in its hit factor because its hitbox is a little larger than any light craft, though it's mostly bogged down by the lack of flares. For its damage, let's talk about the elephant in the room, its combat damage method. The Ancient Scout is equipped with a beam that fires at any angle around you, hits where it clicks instantly, and ignores shield. This is the most insane weapon type to ever be added into this game. This allows you to hit anyone, regardless of how well they're dodging or how fast they're moving, perfectly as long as you can aim at them. And they can't even heal the damage off behind cover due to it targeting their non-regenerating health. Like I said, it's insane. Now to talk about its weaker aspects. It only has 350 DPS to ships, though this does seem faster due to it only targeting part of their health. However, this is still easily the lowest DPS in the game outside of maybe the spikes, so it gets a 1 in raw DPS. And against structures Cool confirmed to me it does more to them, but both of the numbers he gave me are still fairly slow compared to most ships in the game. This low damage, combined with how much of a difficult time the Ancient Scout has with missile towers, lowers its siege method to a 1. Overall, the damage score is hard carried by the absolutely bonkers way it attacks ships. I cannot stress how absurd its beam weapon is. Now let's talk about how you should actually play the Ancient Scout. There are two things you need to play around the most. 1. Your ability to fight other ships. The Ancient Scout has the matchup advantage against pretty much every vehicle in the game outside of the heavy corvette and maybe the tank. This is due to every other vehicle in the game having some pretty large blind spots, and the Scout is unparalleled at using its mobility to stay in those blind spots while chipping away at the vehicle's health. 2. Homing missiles, especially from missile towers. Homing missiles are basically a death sentence for an ancient scout because they're very difficult to reliably evade and they instantly kill you. Because of this, you need to avoid situations where they are a factor. Against satellite homing missiles, you can just boost hyper away and the missile won't catch up to you. Against missile towers, however, your best bet is to either fly straight up or straight down and pray they don't hit you. Because of these two major factors, you'll mostly notice me fighting in hyper, defending a planet or going to moons in these clips. This is because these areas are the areas you're least likely to run into homing missiles or have reliable escape options if you do run into a homing missile. When defending a planet, the only autos you really need to worry about are outposts your enemy may place, and those will almost always be destroyed by your own autos, plus you can deal with outposts just fine if you dodge them. On moons, the only auto that can be placed is an outpost, which, again, you can deal with. Playing for moons is smart when you need to gain passive Rus, as you can often place extractors on these moons to get passive RU. And then finally, there is hyper. This is probably where you should spend most of your time. This is because all of the ancient scout strengths are even stronger here and all of its weaknesses are toned down a bit. For starters, you move faster than anything else in the game, so you can intercept and fight anyone you see often before they can get to a planet, and if it looks bad for you, you can run away and they won't catch up. Secondly, ships take extra damage in hyper. This is extremely good for the ancient scout because the ancient scout gets one shot by most things either way, but its low DPS beam now is killing your enemies faster. Finally, when in hyper, everybody can move so fast that it is very difficult to hit anyone with a projectile that has its own speed. The ancient scout sidesteps this issue entirely by having its beam be instant, meaning you can hit them easily and they have an even harder time than usual hitting you. One last tip I want to give is that you should never fly directly at an enemy with the ancient scout. If you need to chase them, fly besides them instead of directly at them. Flying directly at them makes you an easy target, and unlike most other ships, the ancient scout doesn't just hit in front of it, meaning this usually inevitable risk is completely unnecessary for the ancient scout. And that is it for my guide for how to use the ancient scout. I want to say thank you all for watching my videos and shorts so much. I've gained so many views in so little time. I also want to say thank you to Cool specifically for telling me the stats of the ancient scout. I could not have done the stats without him. That is all, but remember, I am Tetras and I am the best.